Hi, this is Margot. This is Sunday evening, May the 8th, 2022. I hope everyone is safe and doing as well as possible. We made it through another week, and I'd like to wish mothers happy Mother's Day. And I'd like to welcome everyone to the show tonight. This will be my weekly update that I'll be putting on YouTube. And we're going to go over methane for the week, sea ice, climate reanalyzer, and a few earthquakes. So we're going to start out with the NOAA methane data. I have 2 days worth of data, Friday and Saturday, to show. We're starting with Friday the 6th from the MET-OT-B or MET-OT-1 satellite in the morning. We're on the 469 millibar reading. The mean or average was 1925 parts per billion. The high reading was 2476. In the afternoon, the mean was 1923. And the high reading was 2403. And then on the 7th, or Saturday, the morning, the mean was 1925 again. The high reading was 2545. And in the afternoon, the mean went down to 1921. The high reading was 2392. And we can see quite a few pinks coming further south here. And the pink is a range between 2,000 parts per billion and whatever this highest number is here. So for the 7th, here's our chart. That averages out to be 1923 parts per billion. That's giving us an overall decrease this week of half a part per billion. Now last week it had gone up half a part per billion, so we lost that this week. And we're still hanging out just above the 1920 mark at 1923. We are 16 parts per billion higher than this time a year ago. Hang on. I did that right. I need to change this. And we're 53.5 parts per billion higher than when I started all of this on March the 1st of 2019. So we're just heading into the warming season for methane. It usually really starts cooking. You'll see it really start zipping up, usually around June. Late June, and then July, August, September, and it usually peaks out in October with the highest reading, and then it starts going down for the winter. And we can see like it peaked out here under 1900 in 2019. And then the next peak in 2020, see, it's way up. It just keeps going up exponentially. This was, I think it was around 1918. And then in 2021, see, our peak was I can show you. back here. We peaked out at 1936 on October the 2nd. So, the peaks would go higher each year, and when it goes into the cooling, the low is higher than the low from the year before. So we're in exponential warming with the methane, and it's very dire. So I'll show you what happened this week. So here we were last Sunday, where I showed the data for Saturday on the 30th. It was at 1923.5. And so that was an increase for the week of half a part per billion. Then no change on Sunday. On Monday it went up half a part per billion. On Tuesday it went down 1. Wednesday it went down half. Thursday no change. Friday it went up 1.5, and we were at 1924. That was our high reading for the week. We had that on the 2nd and on the 6th. And then on the 6th, see, we were 20 parts per billion higher than a year ago. And then on the 7th, it goes down 1 part per billion for that day, giving us an overall decrease for the week of half a part per billion. And I decided to just keep adding to this chart because we can see the relationship between the years like this. I'm just going to keep adding to it. Now we'll move on to look at CAMS. This is Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service out of the EU. See methane forecast. I have Saturday the 7th up, Arctic view and surface level. Here's our color ledger at the bottom. So the data is for Saturday, and forecast period runs Sunday through Wednesday. Here's our hot spot here in the North Atlantic. This has been percolating back and forth. We're also we've got some coming up into the Barents Sea here, and then moving up into the Kara Sea, and also here in the Laptev Sea and East Siberian Sea. When you see it, look, see the kind of the yellow shade move in. So that's methane coming up through the sea ice. And I can only assume that methane is redistributing with the tilt of the Earth and the heating of the northern hemisphere. And but I don't know why it's so much lower up here once the sun comes up. It's higher in the winter time. I don't know why. If someone can answer that question, that would be wonderful. And we can see it's coming back to life in southern Alaska and here at Koktovik. See, there it goes. Russia, see, starting to come back to life on the interior here. I haven't heard much about wildfires yet. I haven't really looked. Wildfires in Russia. They generally have them that kind of smolder, the zombie fires that smolder during the winter under the snow, and then in the springtime they just burst back to life. So they don't go out completely in the wintertime, and they just do a smolder under the snow. Here's the North Pole view. We can see quite a bit of Europe is pretty filled up. Germany, UK especially. Here's the Persian Gulf. See, it's not as concentrated as it has been. Here's India. See, it is filling up all the way to the tip, and it's spilling over now into the Bengal Bay. Here's China. See these green waves move out across the oceans. Those are signs of very high methane. Here in North America, especially the US, you're seeing the big blobs in the areas where they're having rain right now. So they have the rain, and then a couple of days later it makes high methane. And then there are some areas where it's always going off, like West Texas, from the oil drilling, up here in North Dakota, California, different places. And if it's densely populated, you're going to have high methane. I always go back to what Guy McPherson says all the time. Civilization is a heat engine, and so that's going to drive up all the greenhouse gases, not just methane, but carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, everything. It's a heat engine. Okay, here's the Antarctic view. We can see that this higher level of methane at the 1840 has now overtaken all of the Antarctic. And so it's hard to discern where it's coming up around the coastlines. We can see higher reading here still at the Larsen B ice shelf. See, it's more into the aqua, more greenish there, so that's a higher reading. That's about all I can discern down here right now. We've got it a little bit coming off of South America, see. And then we'll go to the global view. And you can see just a few little wisps, little areas with it at 1820 parts per billion. But it's dissipating quickly. New Zealand's, they're hot. See, on that North Island especially, high readings there. See these greens. That northern hemisphere, the main background color is some shade of green. That dark green is like 1920, this dark green. Then it goes up from there. Here's 500 HPA. It's about halfway up in the atmosphere. See, the darkest areas are still up in the northern part. See these reds coming further south, reds and yellows. Down to Australia there. Here's total column, and here's highest at China, India, here's the Philippines. Then we've got reds distributing. And I don't show carbon dioxide very often, but I've decided I'm going to show it periodically, simply because it's really a shock to see it like this. This is yesterday at total column, and look at the dividing line. This goes right along with the methane, where it goes from green to blue, from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. The equator is, well, that's right, pretty much right at the equator. Goes from the brown and, see, I can't tell if it's the dark, that's probably the darkest. So that's a range of 420 to 1,000 parts per million. The darkest. So that's quite disturbing. I remember when we used to see a lot of cream colored and even like these blue greens in the southern hemisphere, and just tan color up in the top part. Now this is the new model that they started using when, I think it was around the 1st of November, and so it's reflecting higher readings as well. Anyway, I just thought I'd show that. Now I've got a couple more to show from CAMS. This is sulfur dioxide today. We've got a high reading here off the near on the west coast of South America. See, here it is at 500 HPA, where it jumped up. That's it's probably volcano related. And here's the ozone hole forming over the Antarctic. it's pretty much all in the dark now. And it's going down into the aqua range here on this west side. The solid yellow is 300 Dobson units, and once you start going into greens, even this yellow green, it's below the average, 300 Dobson units. And see, it's thin up here at South America too. Here's the Arctic ozone. It's really thinning out, isn't it? And I'm thinking that this ozone, the heavy ozone up here, I'm thinking it's from pollution. I don't know. I can't get a definitive answer on that. But it's heaviest over the Arctic in the winter time, which doesn't make sense to me, because in the winter time in the Antarctic the hole forms, and in the winter time in the Arctic it gets heavy. So I don't understand that. And then, you know, when the sun comes up, it gets lighter. It's less. So I really don't understand that. See, it's really, that heavy stuff is just really dissipating. And here's the global view, and see these greens. This whole southern hemisphere, look how big these holes are. It's huge, going all the way around. And I've got a couple of earthquake pictures. There were 181 today when I took these pictures, a little earlier. And we've got some Arctic earthquakes happening up here next to Greenland. There was only one when I took this picture. It was a 5.1. It's just north of Iceland near Jan Mayen, and just east of Greenland on the red line. This came in at 2:14 this afternoon. And here's a higher one in the Virgin Islands of 5.5 near Cruz Bay, U.S. Virgin Islands. And those are the only pictures I took. But I thought I'd go ahead and show some earthquakes while we're at it. Especially this up here. These Arctic earthquakes. This is going to town. Look at this. So I showed the 5.1. That was at 2:14. And then there was a 5.4 at the same place at 4:33. These are Pacific times. And then a 4.4 at 4:50. So I wouldn't call it a swarm. I would call it a cluster. So we're going to keep an eye out on those. And we'll see more and more Arctic earthquakes like this as the glaciers melt and the Greenland ice sheet melts. It changes the weight on the tectonic plates, and they're literally moving up or down depending. So that'll cause earthquakes. It's called isostatic rebound. Now we'll move on to Climate Reanalyzer. 2-meter temperature anomaly today, and see all this brown coming up from Russia over the Kara Sea, and then brown here in the Beaufort Sea. This is for the air temperature, then up to the North Pole and a little bit further. And see the brown swooping down through Canada all the way through Texas and Mexico and out west, and then blue. And it's cold where I live in Nevada, and we actually had some snowflakes this afternoon. The sun was out and the wind was blowing and the snowflakes were going sideways just for a couple of minutes. But it's cold here. It's gonna hit 30 tonight in Reno, 31, something like that. It's gonna be cold all week. So definitely below normal. And here's the global view, and look at all this cold air over the Weddell Sea in the Arctic. That's purple. That's colder than normal. See all these blues? That's where the polar air is swooping down. It's not being held in by what used to be the jet stream. There's no stream anymore. Worldwide, we're up 0.1 C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.4 C. The Arctic is up 0.2 C. The Antarctic is down 1.7 C. Southern hemisphere is down 0.2 C. And the tropics are up 0.3 C higher than normal. Then precipitation and clouds, and see this big atmospheric river. This just moved across from Texas over. And we can see it's raining almost up to Greenland. It turns to snow right before it gets to Greenland. It's raining at Iceland. It's raining a little bit further north too. And see, it's raining here in Russia. That's very far north for it to be raining right now. So that's not good news. Look at the rain here across the northern areas of Canada. That's not good news either. That will thaw out the permafrost in a heartbeat. Here's the global view. Oh, so see this rain in Russia almost up to the coastline. Here's what used to be the jet stream. And see all these breaks? That's where the cold air is coming down. breaks, and in southern hemisphere is just as bad. No rhyme or reason, and weather chaos. It's worse every time we look at this. And here's sea ice and snow cover. We haven't had a big retreat yet. It's melting here around this Canadian coastline and around the Greenland southern tip. And it's thinning more than anything. You'll see. when we go through the other models. Here's sea surface temperature anomaly. The latest data they have is for Thursday the 5th. We've still got browns up here in the Barents Sea next to blues. And then browns and reddish colors around Iceland, coming down to Greenland. And this North Atlantic Sea coming up to Europe and the UK. It's all in the browns. See? And here's our hot spots into the pink, which is 6C, higher than normal. I think they're going to have to change their chart soon. We see the pinkish white, that's 6C, right next to purple, which is colder than normal. And here's the Gulf of Mexico heating up. Here's the global view. And here in the Arabian Sea, see it's very concentrated brown. Red Sea is brown. Persian Gulf is heating up. This Bengal Bay is heating up. And down here in the Tasman Sea, between Australia and New Zealand, we've got reds and browns. And here's where it's coming across the Pacific. And here's our blob in the North Pacific. It's kind of a constant. That's in the reds. Worldwide, we're up 0.3C, higher than normal, along with North Pacific. Northern Hemisphere is up 0.4C. North Atlantic is up 0.5C. Southern Hemisphere is up 0.2C. And the Equatorial Pacific is down 0.3C. Now we'll move on to the sea ice portion of the show. We're starting with our models from the U.S. Navy. This is sea ice thickness for the Arctic. The color ledger is on the right, going backwards through the rainbow as it goes thicker. We can see most of it is in some shade of aqua. The dark aqua is about 1.5 meters thick, like right here in the Laptev Sea. And then it moves into lighter aqua and bright aqua, 2 to 2.5 meters thick. And so where you see the bright aqua here north of Greenland and Canada, that's about 2.5 meters thick. So the thickest ice is just above, just next to Canada and Greenland. And we have a little sliver of the dark red, which is 5 meters thick. And some green, that's about 3 meters thick. So, not like it was in many years past, where it used to be really thick, 20 meters thick up here. Those days are over. So I've named these quadrants just for reference: 1, 2, 3, and 4. Starting here in quadrant 1, we've got mainly shades of aqua coming from this East Siberian Sea across to the North Pole. And see the darker aqua, it started thinning here. This is the Laptev Sea. Here's Severnaya Zemlya. We've got some open water around there. And here in the Laptev Sea, you can see it's pulling away from the coastline, and it is starting to thin out and melt and lose its integrity there. Then in quadrant 2, this involves Novaya Zemlya and the Kara Sea and this Russian coastline. And so here in the Kara Sea, up by the Taimyr Peninsula, we can see that that's melting. And then here in the Barents Sea, it's just kind of holding, and we've got a hole forming east of Franz Josef Land. Here's Svalbard, and then Greenland moving into quadrant 3, and we've got some thicker ice just along the coastline. And see, we've got some aquas going up. This east side is starting to break apart and and melt along the coastline. Here in the Baffin Bay, it's melting on this west side of Greenland, also on the Canada side. And then here in the Hudson Bay, see, we've got aquas on the east side, and then right along the coastline there's some pretty good sized areas of no ice, and it's melting on the west side too. In these tributaries, Canada, we've got mainly aquas. Now we've got some yellows and greens coming in, so that's a little bit thicker, moving into 3 meters to 3.5 meters thick right up here. And here in quadrant 4, like I said, here's the thickest sea ice. It's kind of a flat, like a pancake. See? Now we've seen it more of a dome shape before, but this year it's more of a flat, kind of a pancake shape. Here's some open water where it's pulled away from the coastline of Canada. Also around Alaska. This is the Beaufort Sea. So we've got mainly shades of aqua here. And the Bering Strait is melting. The Bering Sea. See, that's in pretty high melt right now. And then up here in the Sea of Okhotsk around Russia, that's melting. Here's the 30-day animation. Now this was updated to yesterday. Oh yeah, and I forgot to show, this was for yesterday. Sometimes on, now Mother's Day is not a national holiday where they take time off for it here in the U.S., but it is, well-known holiday or observance, and so a lot of times people will take off, and so they might have less staff over the weekend because these were only updated to yesterday, and Beaufort sea ice was updated to day before yesterday. But it's still the most recent data. So this was updated to yesterday. The data goes back 3 weeks, and the forecast goes out to next Saturday. Now we're really being able to notice this thinning start here in this Laptev Sea. See, it goes from aqua and it's moving into purples and blues. So that's melting pretty good, pretty fast, and see, it's pulling away from the coastline. So there's some ice-free area there. And also pulls away from Severnaya Zemlya, so more ice-free there. And then here in quadrant 2 we start seeing it thin out in that forecast period. And look how it's pulling away from Novaya Zemlya, so ice-free down there. See that thick ice? It pulls up. That's the way the ice drift is moving. The sea ice. It's in constant motion. And then here above Greenland is just kind of holding. And we see it thinning out here in the Baffin Bay. Also in the Hudson Bay. And then over here in quadrant 4. It's just holding, not changing a lot. But it is definitely melting more here near this Bering Strait area. Now look up here. That Sea of Okhotsk is really dwindling. And the purple, dark purple, is 1 meter thick, and the lavender is about 1/2 meter thick. Here's the Beaufort Sea ice thickness. This was for Friday the 6th. See these lines? That's where the leads are opening up. The cracks, the big cracks in the ice. So Alaska's down here. Here's where it's pulled away from the coastline. Also here along Canada where it's pulled away. Here's the 30-day animation. So the forecast goes out to Friday. Watch it pull away here. And then it drifts back. So it's just holding. It's not changing that much this week. And here's the Antarctic sea ice thickness. Here we are on the refreeze, and see it's coming out pretty far now here in the Ross Sea, and then a little on the west side. Not much on the west side of this western peninsula. That's still pretty much ice-free. Then here in the Weddell Sea, the extent is coming back out, and it's starting to thicken up a little bit more. And then around the other coastlines, just gradually coming back out. So the majority of the thicker ice is this aqua here in the Weddell Sea. Here's the 30-day animation, again updated to yesterday, so the forecast goes out to next Saturday. So we can see it's just gradually creeping back out. And this is from National Snow and Ice Data Center as of yesterday. In the Arctic, this is sea ice concentration. Look at all the blues. That's where it's melting. So this is quite a dramatic change from last week. And here's the hole at Franz Josef Land. And see, it's under the median here in the Bering Sea and the Sea of Okhotsk. See these blues, that's where it's all melting. Also here in the Beaufort Sea. And here's the sea ice extent. This is as of yesterday, and see it had been going down, and it looks like a flat line, so just holding. That's kind of what I thought it looked like. Just not doing, it's just holding its own right now. Here's the Antarctic sea ice thickness. See, it's really come back here in the Ross Sea. We're still under on this west side, and then under the median near the Weddell Sea, and also on the east side. And here's the extent for the Antarctic, and here's our refreeze running parallel to last year, below but parallel, and parallel to the median. And here's Greenland. The salmon color, that shows where it's melting today, and we've got one little spot down here on the southwest edge. Now, it's been raining close to the southern tip this week for, I don't know, a couple of days. I thought for sure there would be more salmon here because of the rain, but I guess it turned to snow right before, right on the coastline, right before it went over the ice. But there is one little module of salmon there. These are the cumulative melt days for today. And we're seeing mainly light blue, which is around the 5 to 8 number. And then right down here you've got some of the darker blue moving up to 10. 10 days of melt this year. Here's their chart for melt extent. The dotted blue line is the median, the red line is this year. So it's kind of flat-lined right now. That's all of those. And now we'll move on to NASA Worldview. And we're not going to look at the Antarctic. Well, I'll just show you real quick how big the dark area is. So here, I'll refresh. So that's, most of it's in the dark. Just a couple of edges are still peeking through, and just the tippy point of that western peninsula is in the sunlight. So that's what I had for the Antarctic. Now let's look at the Arctic. And we turn on the sea ice concentration layer and see all the colors. That's where it's melting. So pretty big change from last week. See the melting here in the Hudson Bay, here in the Baffin Bay, and along the east coast or east side of the ice here. And here's Svalbard. See, that's melting. Franz Josef Land. Here's the hole there. And see the melting here in the Kara Sea. Also, look here in the Laptev Sea. See, it's moving into reds, yellows, and greens. So the more colors you see, the more it's melting down to the purple, which is just practically not there. So it's interesting to see here in the Beaufort Sea, that's breaking up, and then along the coastline down here in the tributaries, see the melting, and the North Baffin Bay. So we'll turn that layer off, and we'll move into the satellite view, and we'll start up here on the north end of Greenland, starting here with the Lincoln Sea. My mouse, sorry, I don't use my mouse very often. Look, that's open water. See it cracking up. And then now we're moving down into the nearest strait. This never fully froze during the winter. Lots of open water here. This is Greenland. This is Ellesmere Island up here. Now we've got some ice, a little bit of cloud cover, And here at the bottleneck where it moves out into the Baffin Bay. But see, we've got a lot of open water there. And a lot of open water here on this northwest edge of Greenland. And then look here, that's open. And then we've got a bunch of clouds. So here's the ice. You can see it through the cloud. There's the ice in the Baffin Bay. Those long cracks, those open up first. And it's thinner, so that'll melt first, and then you have pieces of ice left, like ice cubes. And wherever there's not ice, wherever it's just open water, it's absorbing heat and radiation from the sun. And so the water's starting to heat up, and it'll make the ice around it melt that much faster. And the ice reflects the radiation back out. So here's the storm coming up to Greenland, and see, here's Iceland where it's raining today. Now those earthquakes happened right up here, or about right up here. Let's see how many there are now. 3. Right. So it's just, these earthquakes are just opposite this little nook here at Greenland, so right out here. Okay, here's the ice on the east side of Greenland. See the melting. Here's Svalbard. See, that's melting. Let's move on up. Here's Franz Josef Land. There's a big cloud over here to the right. We can't see the whole. Let's look back. Yesterday you can see the hole through the clouds. It's just cloudy almost every day there. Here's the ice, and here's Novaya Zemlya, and here's this east side. Now in the Navy model we saw this ice pulling up, moving away from the coastline. Here's the Yamal Peninsula. So this is the Kara Sea. There's open. So this is not solid ice at all. I mean, see all the open water there, lots of pieces, not good integrity. So this will melt fast, I'm thinking. And here's Severnaya Zemlya, and see this open water on this east side. See that? And then here's Komsomolets, and looking through this cloud, let's see. Here we go. Here it was on the 6th. A little bit of wispy ice there. But it's opening up fast, see? Look at that. Let's see what today. Look at this. See that? Yeah, open water. Look at this. And then moving on up. This is the Laptev Sea. Here's the Taimyr Peninsula. And you can see, oops, see where it's opening up? That's open water. Wherever you see the blue. Or it might be dark blue, even look like black, because it's dark blue. And that's open water. Look here. So this is going to melt fast. See? Look at that. Okay, here's New Siberian Island. And then this is the East Siberian Sea. And look at how the ice is just wispy here. Not much. Seriously, it's just not much. And this is the ice lip that comes out from the coastline. Okay, here's East Siberian Islands, and see the big hole here coming along. That's already melted. Here's Russia, and we can start to see evidence of the leads starting to melt a little bit. And then coming around, there's Wrangel Island. Here's the Bering Strait. And you can see the ice through the clouds here. So there's a lot of open water in the Bering Sea. Okay, here's yesterday. Let's see. It's melting. Here's the 6th, 5th. So each day you get a different view of what's going on. Okay. So this is Alaska. And there's where it's pulled away. Look at this. So Barrow, where's Barrow? Right up here. Look at this ice. See that open water? So that's melting. And here's the Canada coastline. Look at that. All the way down. And here's where it's pulling away. That's a large area. Open water. And this is, like I said, turning into ice cubes. So where it was thin in between the thicker pieces, that's melting fast and pulling apart because of the ice drift. Look at this. This is on the Canada coastline. So this is where we've got some thicker ice. And Ellesmere Island, and then we're back to Greenland. So there's that. That's my report for tonight. I already looked at earthquakes. Let's see how many worldwide. Seven days, all magnitudes. 1,690. So that's definitely gone down. So there's the movement on that tectonic plate. Look at all of these. Lots of 5s and lots of 4s. Not much on the 6s and no 7s. I think there was one, there was a 6 at the Philippines. Let's go 7 days, 4.5 magnitude and higher. 95 now. Okay, Philippines is right down here. Here we go. See? 6.0 at Lucatan, Philippines. That was on the 5th. So that's my report for tonight. And now we'll bring our focus back to the spiritual as we read out of the Bible. This is the last chapter of Ecclesiastes, written by Solomon. Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun or the light, or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets, when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. And also when they shall be afraid of that which is high, and fears shall be in the way, and the almond tree shall flourish, and the grasshopper shall be a burden, and desire shall fail, because man goeth to his long home, and the mourners go about the streets, or ever the silver cord be loosed, or the golden bowl be broken, or the pitcher be broken at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. Vanity of vanities, saith the preacher. All is vanity. And moreover, because the preacher was wise, he still taught the people knowledge. Yea, he gave good heed, and sought out, and set in order many proverbs. The preacher sought to find out acceptable words, and that which was written was upright, even words of truth. The words of the wise are as goads, and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies, which are given from one shepherd. And further, by these things, my son, be admonished. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of men. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Ecclesiastes chapter 4. So time is short. Every day is shorter. One less day than the day before. And I do believe we're in the end times, and that if you haven't repented and given your life to Jesus Christ, I highly recommend it. I hope everyone has a good week. And until next time, I love you all, and I'm praying for you. God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.